What is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. And in today's video, I want to talk about something that I used to struggle with as a younger athlete and something that my athletes personally still struggle with nowadays. And that is basically trying to juggle in-season training between performing on one hand and trying to still progress on the other side, right? So in my experience and something that I see on a daily basis with athletes is that most athletes feel like they need to choose one of the two. Either they try to be the best in practices and games, or they just go all in and try to get better and basically just train like it's in the off season, right? However, the in-season training and the in-season time period is a very crucial period. Okay, the off-season is a time to really get better. Even if you don't play in season or you don't play as much or you don't play as much as you think you should or as much as you deserve, it is still very important for you to be giving it your all in practices and be ready in game even though you don't play. Okay, and this is exactly how we should build the structure. And with that being said, I believe that there's a perfect balance, and I've seen it with my athletes, where we can make sure that they still progress and that they are ready for whenever the time comes to perform. So I'm going to show you guys a whole structure today that I built and kind of my philosophy about in-season training, what it is all about, and how we can juggle these two things together in one program and in one in-season structure. Okay, guys, so now we're inside of my structure on how to structure your week for game day performance so that we can actually set up your week for success. And this is exactly how pro level athletes do. This is exactly how I do with my athletes as well, to make sure that we can still train, progress throughout the season, and make sure that on game day we're ready to actually perform. Okay, so training is stress management. That's something really important to understand. Okay, it's not just random hard days of training. It's not about training really hard Monday to Friday and then playing on Saturday, right? It's about managing the stress throughout the week. That is what training is, and managing in a way that we can get better and that we can be successful when game time comes around. So, what does the week actually look like? Let's start at the beginning. The early week is all about high output, okay? On these days, right? Let's say Monday, Tuesday, we want to train for speed, power, heavy lifts, high intensity things, right? Or power work or strength work, things that are really taxing on the nervous system are done early in the week. Why? Because these things are, like I said, taxing not only on the nervous system, but they're also taxing on a muscular level. So we will need to recover from these things. So it's important to keep this in mind, and it's important to be able to managing the stress, right? So the heavy stress of the week in terms of training will be early in the week. So all our high output things will be Monday, Tuesday if we play on the weekend, right? So early output, early week is all about high outputs. Then we move into mid-week. Midweek is moderate intensity, right? This is controlled things, maybe some more technical work. We can reinforce performance, but the main thing is we want to stay far away from fatigue. So we can still do things that are pushing us performance wise. We can still do sprints, we can still do agility work, we can still do some plyo work, for example. But the main concern here is that we want to stay away from fatigue, right? We're getting closer to game day, maybe 2-3 days away from game day. So we want to stay fresh. We want to focus on control conditioning, moderate intensity, maybe skill work, depending on what kind of sport you play, obviously. But these are the main IDs, right? So we go from high outputs to moderates and staying away from high fatiguing tasks. Okay. Then we move into the late week. So this is like the day before the game, maybe 2 days before the game at most. This is all about short sessions, fast movements, low volume, and really high intent, right? We want to leave these sessions feeling incredibly sharp. These are the type of sessions where it might be 30 minutes, 40 minutes in and out. And after you leave the gym, you want to feel like you could actually jump your highest, or you could sprint your fastest, or you feel the most powerful, right? That's the main intensity or the main idea behind these late week sessions. It's all about readiness, getting your body, getting your nervous system, getting your mind ready for game day. Okay. Then we have game day. Okay. Game day is all about competing, executing, reacting. This is the absolute peak. Some players, some of my athletes that I coach, they also train on game day, and it's basically the same idea as the late week sessions, right? It's all about readiness. It's all about getting ready It's all about getting ready for game day. Game day is the ultimate peak of our week. Okay. And then we have post game. Post game could be immediately after the game. It could be the day after the game. After the game, depending on your availability, depending on how if you have access to a weight room whatsoever or access to training. This is about flushing. This is about restoring, and this is about preparing for the next cycle. Because if you're in season, this is a continuous cycle. The cycle will go from post game back to early week, right? So if you play on Saturday, for example, this could be after your Saturday game, could be on Sunday, so that you're ready for Monday. What do we need to do post game to reset your body, reset your mind, reset your nervous system, so that you're ready to compete again, ready to get after it, and ready to work? Okay. Now, one thing, you guys see all these arrows, okay? These arrows go to this little box, okay? And this is the main thing that is really important. Stress must rise and fall, okay? It cannot stay high all the time. That's the main idea behind this whole structure, right? We go from high stress to lower stress to lower stress. Then the game is high stress again, obviously, because this should be the peak of your week, and low again, right? So it's basically high early in the week, it goes down, it goes up again, and it goes down again. We cannot have high stress all the time. And this is the thing. So many athletes, they just train hard every single day, Monday through Friday, and then they wonder why they're not ready when the game comes. It's because your stress is high all the time. Your body cannot adapt, right? So it's not about having these hard training days. It's about managing stress. And this is all the stress that we can manage in terms of training. Obviously, we do have to understand that stress is stress, right? Um, Stress is stress. No matter what you do, no matter if it's stress training wise, if it's stress outside of your sport, if it's stress from school, work, whatever it might be, stress is stress. Okay, your body doesn't know the difference. So it's really important to understand that sometimes, imagine you have like 2 stressful days in school midweek. It might just be better to not train or do something really, really light, right? We want the stress to be as low as possible on these days. Okay. Anyways, to move on from this. So why do athletes feel flat on game days? Okay. A couple reasons, like I said, mostly because their stress is very poorly managed. Um, with that comes that hard days often come too late in the week. If you're still training like it's Monday on a Thursday or Friday, it's too late in the week. Your body won't adapt. Okay. A lot of athletes have no volume control. Okay. So, like I said, they just train hard all the time. They do too many sets. They don't really track what they're doing in terms of volume, in terms of weights, in terms of intensities. So, no volume control would leads to feeling flat on game days. Then, thirdly, no recovery tracking. If you don't track your recovery and you don't really know what a good recovery for you feels like or what that really is in terms of like measurable data, then you're guessing. And it's really hard to know if you're actually recovering from your sessions or not if you're not tracking it. Okay. And then lastly, training of motivation instead of structure. Okay. Why do I say that? So let's say you play on a Saturday, right? And this is your game day right here. You might not feel like training on Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, when the game comes closer, you might feel really motivated. You think, there's a game coming up. I need to get ready. So now I'm really motivated. I'm going to train really hard. And then you feel flat on game day because of exactly that reason. If you have an actual structure just like this one, it won't happen because you understand what you're doing. You understand the principle behind training hard early in the week, recovering, and then getting ready for that game, right? So you need a structure. You need a structure just like this that will prepare you for the game, that also makes you understand that it's beneficial for the game, but also to still make progress in season, okay? Then, lastly, with my athletes, I use daily readiness checks, right? So these checks we actually use to see how ready the athlete is on a daily basis to train and to perform. The main checks are sleep quality, right? This is measurable. We can measure this with things like a whoop, garments, I don't know, those rings, the recovery rings. Sleep quality we can measure. Energy levels, how are we feeling? This can be really psychological. This can be really subjective, but it's important that we measure these. Okay, same with the mood. Really important. How is your mood? Because if we're not recovered, often the mood will not be where we want it to be. Okay, and then lastly, the warm-up feel. How are we feeling after the warm-up? This is the last part before we go into the training. Right? I have a system with my athletes where I can actually I'm let them make choices on the training based on how they feel right after the warm up. Because sometimes you think you feel good until you start warming up, and then after the warm up, you don't feel amazing. So it's important to know exactly what signals your body is giving you, so you can adjust your training based on these readiness checks. Okay. Again, just like with the motivation that I just said here in the last point, it is important to use this feedback to adjust your training so that you're not training based on motivation or ego, but based on feedback. And these daily readiness checks, they give us feedback that we can use to then get the best training and eventually maybe adjust our training. Okay. Lastly, this little quote over here: performance doesn't disappear, it gets used up. Spend it wisely across the week. That's the main message, right, guys? So we have a whole week, right? We want to use our performance at the right point of the week. Again, on game day, we want to be at the peak. This is the peak of our performance. We want to use our performance to train early in the week, right? Our performance doesn't disappear. We just need to use it at the right time, right? So this is exactly how I structure everything with my athletes so that we can set them up for success during the training week and during the season. Okay, guys, so thanks for watching. I hope that this whole idea made sense to you guys. If you guys have any type of questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. Feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram. I also have the link down below in my video to book a call with me if you feel like you need personalized help with this and if you want to customize your in-season training to make sure that you can and perform and be at your best and still get better every single day. So if you guys are interested in that, click the link below in my video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.